All right, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, July 7th. If everybody please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't have Andy here for his All right. And then I'm going to take a brief moment to welcome Michelle, or Miss Hall, here for joining our team and first meeting here. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And at this time, then, would you please call the roll?
Here.
Member Garza.
Here.
Member Peters.
Here.
Member Estrada. Vice Chairman Benedict.
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here. All right. And do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
No changes. All right. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from last meeting?
Yes.
Good. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. All right. So, I'll give a brief description because we've just started this this year, which is our consent agenda. So all items on the with an asterisk on our agenda are considered routine matters and can be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote by the commission. So there will be no separate discussion in regards to each of the agenda items. Any member from the public and or member of the commission can request to remove any agenda item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in its normal sequence. So at this time, does anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda?
Chairman Miller, I'd like to pull item E2.
Okay. So item E2 will be pulled from the consent agenda. Is there anything else or anybody else? Public can be included, so if there's anything included. Seeing nobody, I would accept a motion for the consent agenda items that were not pulled.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve consent items E1 and E3 and 4 from the consent item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Vice Chair Benedict.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. And so, since it's been pulled, we haven't jumped to new business yet, but I'll kind of go through the running of the meeting now. So, the staff will get the opportunity to present an agenda item. From there, the commission will get the opportunity to ask questions of staff. Once that's completed, then we will ask the applicant and or their representative to come forward. They can add any additional information, answer any additional questions that the commission may have, provide any additional input that they would like. And then from there, once that's complete, we will open it up to the public. So if you're here from the public and would like to speak to an agenda item, it'll be at that last part. If you have specific questions, you can ask the questions. We'll make note of them, but know that you'll have 3 minutes. Once that's complete, then the call to the public's done. We will bring up the appropriate parties, whether that be the applicant and or the staff, to then answer those questions. So you won't get it while you're standing at the podium, but we will take note to hopefully get all the questions answered for this evening. And so with that, we will start with the first item, which was pulled from the consent agenda, which would be E2, consider a request for approval by I'm not gonna slaughter that, but it's a major site plan for DSA-22-00046 for Rodeo Crossing Apartments. Jacqueline?
Yes, Chair and members of the commission, this is for the Rodeo Crossings Major Site Plan for a 144-unit apartment complex located at the northeast corner of Cadota Avenue and Santa Cruz Road and its alignment. It has 17.1 dwelling units per acre. And the zoning, if you remember, came to the Planning Commission in January, I believe, and it was approved by City Council in February. So here is the major site plan being proposed. As you can see, it it's a little different from the conceptual site plan that was shown in the PAD, but I believe this is a much better layout. Here are the major site plan criteria. The staff report goes in additional detail. I will go over a few items and then answer any questions commissioners may have that I didn't cover. So as far as the general plan is within the community corridor land use category, and this allows for PUD and multifamily with a gross density of up to 25 dwelling units per acre. The proposed development is at 17.1 dwelling units per acre, meeting this requirement. And one of the goals and objectives, action steps, is to promote high-density residential uses along urban corridors and near major commercial centers, and staff feels this meets this criteria. With regards to the zoning ordinance, it is subject to the 2021 residential design standards for PADs. Their PAD guide reflects the following setbacks and height requirements, and staff found that the major site plan met all this criteria. With regards to notification, it met or exceeded all the requirements, and I did not receive any comments or inquiries as of today. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the major site plan for Rodeo Crossings, DSA 22-0046, and happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Any questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question for Jacqueline. Cadota Avenue, south of Rodeo, is it paved today?
It is currently not, but as part of this project, they will have to do half-street improvements and at least show, be able to allow two-way traffic.
So can you pull up one of the previous slides? I just want to make sure it's clear that they're going to pave Cadota south of Rodeo down to the property.
Correct, yeah, they would do, to have access to the site.
Okay.
To
I
the
didn't-
southern edge.
Yeah,
They'll have to go to the southern edge of the property.
yeah, I just didn't see that addressed in the staff report, so I wanted to make sure that was clear, that that was a requirement of the site plan.
That would be shown in the site development permit that would be done administratively.
Okay.
And
And Dwayne can
Dwayne, do you have anything to add?
attest to that. They gotta build their half street all the way down.
So, got it. Okay, that was my question.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah,
Member Benedict?
thank you. Jacqueline, can you describe for us what you know about the flood control applications? I mean, along that south end is that Santa Cruz wash that we've all seen run pretty good. So tell us what you know about what they're doing for that.
So there was a drainage study that was reviewed by the Development Center engineer and approved. From what I remember, there are some flood area or 100-year floodplain to the south of this where there is landscaping, retention, and then parking, and there's no buildings in that area.
Do we know what flood zone this is, this whole site?
The applicant may be able to answer a little more questions on this, but I believe it's just to the southern portion. No, but I know no buildings were within the floodplain.
But we don't know
100-year
what zone, I mean, what zone it is.
It would be within the 100-year floodplain.
It'd be X.
No. I mean,
I can address that question for you if you want.
okay.
Yes, Director.
Site is in the site is in the X zone,
That's what
except for the
Okay.
very southern portion where the landscaping is in the 100-year floodplain. The rest of it is in the X zone out of the 100-year.
Okay, thank you, that's what I was wanting.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. No other questions? No? All right. Then at this time, would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward, speak to this agenda item? They may not be here since they were on the consent agenda. All right, then I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion and bring it back to the, oh, yeah, please. I'm not closing the public portion. I'm reopening the public.
Short question.
Yeah.
David Zenizer, 491 East Dartmouth. Do we know what kind of rent these apartments are going to go for? Do we have any idea what this is, what they will rent for? Just so I can get a feel for what kind of,
We do not, and unfortunately, the applicant isn't here, so at this time, we wouldn't be able to
okay,
address that question, so sorry.
thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else from the public? Seeing no one, I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve consent item E2 as presented.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second. I'm going to give the DSA-22-00046 for a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right, motion approved. Next up, we have a public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to City Council for request by Clarius Partners for a zone change DSA-22-00103.
Good evening, Commissioners. Claris Partners is requesting a zone change from Planned Area Development, PAD, to General Industrial, I-2, for approximately 160 acres of land, generally located west of Burris Road and south of Clayton Road. You can see it highlighted on the screen. General plan category is manufacturing and industry. The site is requested to be rezoned to accommodate future potential industrial prospects. In looking at it, there are residential areas abutting the proposed site. Westfield Park PAD to the south has 282 certificate of assured water supply for single-family residential development. Additionally, there are some county ranches to the east of the site shown on the screen. At time of major site plan or future development of the site, staff will evaluate any proposed use of the site and apply appropriate buffer areas and standards to mitigate any adverse impact on abutting and surrounding properties. You can see here is the existing zoning shown as PAD and proposed zoning of I-2 General Industrial. In looking at the review criteria, we looked at it's in conformance with the general plan. We make sure that it's consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and other applicable elements. Cover a couple of those items tonight. Goal MI1 is provide and expand the manufacturing and industry land use areas to accommodate a variety of industries. This site's in a good location just south of another project you'll see tonight. It's also located nearby the coal or Vickrell site and also the Walbridge site. The other one we'll cover is the rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified uses of the general plan. The requested zoning of general industrial is appropriate in the manufacturing and industry land use category. In regards to public notification, we met or exceeded all efforts of the notification. We did not receive any comments. In conclusion, staff recommends the Commission forward a recommendation of approval of the zone change request, DSA 22-00103, from Planned Area Development to general industrial, to city council with the following conditions, and that's our standard right-of-way dedication condition. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Any questions for staff? No? All right. At this time, would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward and speak to this agenda item? Nope.
Dang.
All right. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? All right. With that, then I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to propose that the commission forward a recommendation of approval of the zone change request DSA-22-00103 from Plenary Development to General Industrial to the City Council with the listed conditions as proposed by staff.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Aye.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Next agenda item, public hearing and consider forward a recommendation of approval to City Council of a request by Soil Works for a zone change, DSA-22-00111.
This will be a somewhat similar request as our last one. Soil Works is requesting a zone change from general business B2 and general industrial I2 to general industrial I2 for approximately 10 acres of land generally located east of Burris Road and north of Peters Road. You can see it highlighted below. General plan is all manufacturing industry for the area. As shown, the parcel currently has 2 zone districts within its boundaries. City code stipulates that no zone boundary line shall hereinafter be established to divide one lot into 2 or more zone districts unless that division is determined to be essential by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. In essence, we're doing a cleanup of this parcel and making it all I-1. And the zone change is required to develop the site in an appropriate manner. You can see the existing zoning and the proposed zoning will make it all I-2. The review criteria is very similar to the last one and has been all covered in your staff report, and it is in conformance with the general plan. As far as notification goes, we met or exceeded all requirements, and we did not receive any comments. In conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval of the zone change request DSA 22-00111 from general business and general industrial to City Council with the following condition, and it's again the condition for request of dedication of right-of-way. Any questions?
Questions for staff? No questions for staff. Presentation was so excellent that there was, all questions were answered.
I saw you on the edge of your seat.
At this time, then, would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward, speak to this agenda item? Nope. All right. Then at this time, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Man, you all are waiting for something. I'm excited to find out what it is. I'm going to close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item let's see.
You're gonna forward a recommendation.
Forward a recommendation of approval for the zone change request DSA 22-00111 from general business B2 and general industrial I2 to general industrial I2 to city council with the following conditions from staff.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. So now we have a public hearing and consider a request by Geosentech. We have two agenda items that will be presented. DSA-22-00014 for a conditional use permit and associated resolution, and DSA-22-00015 for a major site plan. Mr. Horn.
Geosentech is requesting approval for a conditional use permit and major site plan for the Changchun Chemical Production Facility on 84 acres, generally located on the northwest corner of Clayton Road and Burris Road. You can see it highlighted there. It is abutting the Vickrell/Kohler site and the Wallbridge site, also highlighted on your screen there to give you kind of a concept of what's happening in the overall area there. The facility will supply the semiconductor industry with high-quality electronic-grade chemicals. It is anticipated that the facility will include truck and rail service, admin and operation buildings, water treatment and storage, wastewater pretreatment processes, fire water systems, utilities, and electrical substation, ISO storage tank, storage, and material storage tank areas. The electronic-grade chemicals will be of high purity and will undergo strict purification, dilution, and filtration processes at the facility. Raw materials will be transported to the facility by truck and rail. Final products will then be transported from the facility by truck and rail. And just a quick overview of the site. You'll see the office and lab building. They have the process area, admin and parking area, utility area, wastewater treatment facility, truck inspection area, ISO tank storage, and retention area. And then also surrounding it is a retention area, processing the water around the site, the developed flows. Quick elevation of the site is shown up on top, and that's the office lab area. And then just to familiarize the commission, there's a couple of ISO tank trucks shown in the screen, in case you weren't familiar with that product. When looking at the conformance for the conditional use permit, we look at the following items. We're just going to cover that the proposed use will have no adverse effect on abutting property. The site is located within an I-2 General Industrial Zone District. As stated in the city code, the purpose of the I-2 General Industrial Zone is to provide for the development of industries which, because of their nature of their operation, appearance, traffic generation, or emission, would not be compatible with land uses in other zoning districts, but which nevertheless are necessary and desirable activities in the city. This zone district provides an appropriate area for this intended use. In conjunction with the resolution, staff is requesting that the applicant meet the following condition to minimize any adverse impacts from an aesthetic standpoint. So we've asked them to provide an 8-foot tall decorative block wall along all street frontages. In talking with the applicant, I believe they're going to extend that block wall around the entire perimeter of their site. So it also will be abutting the rail up by the Union Pacific Railroad and Gila Bend Highway, or Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, and then also abutting Kohler and the Wallbridge site. In looking at the major site plan review criteria, we cover the following items. All of it's been covered in your staff report. We're just going to concentrate on a couple items tonight. The first one is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. Commissioner Benedict asked that we cover a little bit of their containment So the containment information provided is that industrial stormwater, which may contact equipment or process units, will be segregated, monitored for select water quality parameters, and managed accordingly to prevent infiltration of discharge of contact stormwater into the ground. Any contact stormwater will be equalized and routed to the city sewer or wastewater facility with pretreatment at the on-site wastewater pretreatment system as needed. Again, additionally, you can see the highlighted areas in pink of the site plan where they will have containment areas for any spills that could happen. And then there's the wastewater treatment facility up on the north site that will do the pretreatment and then transfer it over to our wastewater facility. The second item is the impact of the plan on existing and anticipated traffic and parking conditions. I'll just do a quick synopsis. Clayton Road will require a dedication of 55 feet. The city, in conjunction with the Vickrell Kohler Development Agreement, is constructing Clayton Road along its site frontage. Applicant will be required to construct right-in turn lanes at both entrances per the TIA and city requirements. For Burris Road, the required dedication is going to be 70 feet. Burris Road will feature an overpass spanning Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, and at the current time, the city will not require the applicant to construct half-street improvements of Burris Road, as we are in the beginning planning stages of that overpass and the transportation network within that area. So in essence, it ends at Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, and there's no connection to it, so we didn't see the value of having them put in that road until we're prepared for how far back the overpass will be. And then in regards to building location and height, the proposed buildings and equipment are located throughout the site and meet all required setbacks. The admin building is shown at 62 feet tall, which exceeds the maximum allowed height in the I2 zone district unless additional landscape is provided along the street frontage. The project is accounting for that additional landscape area, and you can see there's an elevation of the north view. The site's relatively large, so it doesn't look super impactful, but the buildings are relatively large in bulk and scale. In regards to notification, we met or exceeded all requirements of the city. We did not receive any inquiries or comments regarding this request. In conclusion, staff recommends the commission approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution with the following conditions. It's the condition to provide an 8-foot tall decorative block wall along all budding street frontages. And then staff recommends the commission approve the major site plan with the following conditions and technical modifications. I would like to have them show a pedestrian access out to Clayton and/or Burris from the facility. Prior to the issuance of public improvements permit, they'll be required to dedicate 55 feet for Clayton Road, dedicate 70 feet for Burris Road, provide right turn lanes at both entrances, and dedicate 50 feet for the public trail along Burris Road per the trail master plan. They are in the process of working on a plat now that will provide all those dedications. Can I answer any questions?
Hopefully we have some this time. Any questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes. Member Garza.
Just some clarity, Joe. In the staff report, it talks about improvements to Clayton are already done. Is there, per a capital project that the city county worked on?
So the current improvements to Clayton right now are chip seal. In conjunction with the Kohler Vickrell site, we've done chip seal on Clayton and Ethington. Burris as well has been chip sealed. We're in the process right now of designing Clayton and Ethington for full construction that the city's going to be responsible for. So that's where we stand with that. Now, anything outside of those half-street improvements that we're constructing, they'll be responsible for, which is basically those two turn lanes and most likely sidewalk and street lights.
So what does the day-to-day look like as far as the business and truck access? Like, how often are they visiting the site to pick up things or drop off things? Being that it warrants right turn lanes, I was just curious how the business operates as far as...
I'll either let Dwayne answer that, or I can also have the applicant
Sure.
answer that. So, any other questions before we call up the applicant?
I don't know, Dwayne.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Member Peters.
Yes, I just have a question. Joe, regarding the building heights, the picture that's on the screen, it looks like that's the administrative building, I'm assuming. You mentioned that other buildings are 62 foot in height, and I'm just wondering, that would be the,
I believe that's the
Factory?
that's going to be the process building, I believe, but I'll have the
Okay.
applicant confirm that as well.
okay, so it looked like there were a few of them that were going to be 62 feet in height, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of those are tank storage as well, Commissioner Peters.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thanks, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for staff?
So Celeste, what was your question again?
The functionality of the site, how it, does it see...
How many trips?
Trips are generated by commercial truck traffic.
Right, so Clayton is eventually will be a minor arterial with 2 lanes in each direction and either a center turn lane or raised median. And in the traffic impact analysis, we felt with the right turn lanes going into the drives that everything would work okay.
Yeah,
Have better flow?
yeah, that's what I was just wondering. If it,
The-
does it see a lot of traffic? Will it? Because it doesn't seem like it would, but I was just wondering.
Were
Yeah,
there
and I can promise their consultant will have accurate numbers in her head, so.
Was there any, since there's no half-street improvements along Burris, was there anything like set up for estimated escrowed money to then help offset costs of our overpass, since they don't have to develop it, but they're required to develop their half-street, but they don't need to build a flyover?
So the Burris Road improvements kind of came about in talking to Dwayne this morning, kind of just to clarify exactly what we're looking at, because we have been doing some regional study of that area and the traffic that's happening due to the vast amount of development that we're going through. I would say a couple of months ago, it was determined that we were going to keep Burris Road as our principal arterial, and we were going to look for ways and grants to fund an overpass at that area of Burris Road. So we're still in those beginning processes of kind of conceptual design of those layouts. With that being the case, we don't know how far back we would even begin that transition for going over the railroad and Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, and we'd hate to have a new business come in and spend money that we rip up. So there hasn't been any discussions further than
No,
that with the applicant on any of the escrowed funds or anything.
Yeah, and I'm not asking them to build it, I'm just saying if they said, oh, okay, this is gonna cost us X, but we don't have to build it, so X is gonna go into an escrow account and go to the city when they go to build their overpass. It's gonna be far more than that, but they're required to build their half street. I was just curious.
Yeah, there hasn't been any of the discussions
Okay.
along those lines.
Has nothing to do with their conditional use permit though, so sorry. I got off track. All right. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none? Applicant. and/or their representative, please come forward. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being the first applicant to come up to the podium.
I feel very special.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, so I think the first question was building heights, is that right?
You want to give us your name?
Oh, Lori Carter, Geosyntech.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Nice to see everyone.
Right.
Yeah. Should I just?
Yeah,
Go
you
for
can
it?
jump into
Okay.
whatever questions
Good.
they might have.
Yep. I can provide some detail on the building heights, and then we'll talk about the traffic. So the tallest building will be the process building. It's all indoors. That's the 62-foot, 3-story building. Administration building will actually be a little lower. We'll make sure you have all of that updated information. But that'll be kind of set back. We put the process building, if you look at the site plan, that's farther inside of the property, and then we kind of surrounded the property with the more administrative nature buildings. And then as far as traffic goes, so we'll have 2 shifts a day. At full build out for this phase, we'll have approximately 50 or so employees. Within that, we'll have a higher majority during the day shift than the night shift, 7 to 5 kind of timeframes. We'll also, as Joe mentioned, there's the ISO tank truck process coming in and out. There could be up to 12 of those trucks a day. So,
Where does the product go exactly? Does it stay within Casa Grande and other industrial uses, or does it go to Phoenix or Tucson, or how does that all work?
So for this initial phase, the product will be sent up to TSMC, the chip manufacturing facility in northern Phoenix. We'll bring in ISO tanks, import ISO tanks, as Joe mentioned, by truck or rail, and then we'll store and transport upon customer demand.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? No? All right.
Great.
Thank you for being here this
Yeah,
evening.
thank you.
At this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item?
Again, David Zanizer, 491 East Dartmouth. My question is, I spent 20-plus years in semiconductors. Is this the photoresist, the acid products, or the solvents? What are you actually making at this site? Are you doing?
Hang on. Can you speak into the mic?
I'm asking her what type of product she's making for the semiconductor business. They have 3 basic products they use to make semiconductors. Photoresist, that they do the masking process with. They have solvents that they clean up the masking process, and they use some very caustic acid products to etch silicon. So which of these products are you making there? The fire risks for these products vary greatly depending on which one you're going to be handling, trucking in and out. I'd like to know which one's coming in and out of your site.
Great. So, as mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, she's not going to answer your question right now because we may have other members from the public, but we will bring her up once the public portion is done to hopefully get an answer to your question. So, anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I'll go ahead and close it. And I don't know if you guys have somebody or yourself that would like to answer that question for the gentleman.
Hi, this is Kelvin Su from CCAZ. And I think the product used in the semiconductor lithography process. Okay. So it's one kind of the best, but the acid only 2.38%. I think that's the information I can provide. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are you making? What product are you making?
These-
Photoresist,
No,
solvents, or acids? Which one?
the best. The best. Best.
Base.
Base.
The base.
The TMAH. TMAH. The tetramethyl. No. It's the developer used in the some.
Hang on.
Yes.
Hang-
Pardon?
Losing control, Brett. Sure.
It's aqueous, the best. Yeah.
Okay, hang on, you guys. I can't have like side discussion. It's like, would love for you guys to maybe connect because you're talking about a bunch of stuff I have no idea what it is, but that's okay. You guys know what it is. Hopefully they got you some information, and it sounds like you guys might be able to have some additional conversation. So, okay. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. And we are on the conditional use permit.
So I'll move to approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution DSA 22-00014 with the stated condition.
I'll second
I'll
that
second
motion.
it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Way to jump right in. So I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right, so now, major site plan.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the commission, recommend that the
You're going to make a motion to approve.
motion,
Yep, it's okay. We're going to get there.
that we make a motion to approve the major site plan DSA 22-00015 with the following conditions and technical modifications provided by staff.
I'll second it.
Excellent.
There we go.
Excellent job, by the way. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Next up, public hearing and consider a request of approval by Eric Omdolf of Casa Grande AHI LLLP for a major site plan DSA-22-0078 for Agave House.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. So if you recall, back in March of 2022 of this year, this property at the corner of Quartzen and Treckle was rezoned from B2, general business, to R3, multifamily residential. There were a number of conditions of record imposed on that rezone to help bolster compatibility measures between this site and the single-family area to the east. Some of those conditions included the requirement for a 20-foot minimum landscape buffer along the multifamily property's eastern border, and that principal buildings were to be a minimum of 125 feet from the back of any single-family residential lot, and that principal buildings most closely abutting the single-family area to the east were to be situated so that their narrowest elevations be parallel to that area. So now, with the zone change having been approved, the request in front of you this evening is to consider approval of the major site plan for the proposed multifamily community at this location. They are proposing that it be a gated community, They're proposing 9 three-story buildings on the site, which in total will amount to 216 apartment units with 437 parking stalls. And then there's a number of amenities, including 2 outdoor activity areas, a dog run, and an outdoor swimming pool. I do want to call attention to the fact that though the condition of record on the zoning required a minimum setback of 125 feet from any principal building to the backs of a residential lot, the closest principal building in this case is to be 180 feet. When reviewing major site plans, there's a number of criteria that have to be evaluated, and the staff report goes into each of these in greater detail. I just want to focus on a couple of the items. Firstly, the ones highlighted here have to do with the impact of the plan on existing and anticipated traffic and parking conditions, provisions for utilities and site drainage. So with the submittal of the major site plan, the applicant was required to provide a traffic impact analysis looking at the amount of trips proposed for this apartment complex and its impact that it was going to have on the surrounding street networks and what street networks were anticipated to see an increase in traffic as a result of this proposed use. Also part of the major site plan review process included engineer reports for water and sewer to evaluate whether the existing infrastructure within Quartzen and Treckle were adequate for water and sewer demands, as well as site drainage. With the review of these, we found that all of these were sufficient. But specifically with regard to traffic, there is going to be the need to dedicate some additional right-of-way for Quartzen. And then there will be 2 access points for this site, an access point onto Quartzen as well as an access point onto Treckle. But at both access points, there will be the requirement for right turn lanes, which will help mitigate traffic leading into the site. The Treckle access is especially beneficial because it's going to be shared with future development on the vacant property that lies to the south. There's not a known use yet for the parcel to the south, but that will avoid the need for yet an additional access point via Treckle. The other criteria that I want to talk about is the relationship of the plan to conditions both on and off the property. So the issue that we were the most sensitive about was the fact that the Cottonwood Ranch single-family community lies directly east of this site. And next to the Cottonwood Ranch community lies a 30-foot landscape buffer that is owned and maintained by the Cottonwood Ranch HOA, as you see in this photo. So that buffer was put in by the developer, and that probably was put in because the site that's proposed for development was always proposed for something other than single family. So that buffer did help provide a nice transition for whatever ultimately was to be developed on this 10-acre site. The curiosity about it, however, is they also provided a view fence, as you see in the photo, along the backs of the homes. It's a 2-foot block wall with 4-foot open view fencing. And normally that would be provided because it does provide views to this landscape buffer, but it does create a challenge with regard to what the multifamily site constructs, since now there will be views into the multifamily site as a result of this view fencing along the backs of the single-family lots. Staff took a lot of consideration in terms of what type of screening would be best and most appropriate along the eastern boundary of the apartment complex, because one of the concerns is that a solid wall would create an alley effect, and it could help promote activities that wouldn't be desirable in that 30-foot buffer. It's not a very large area. So we are advising that the apartment complex also provide a partial view fence that's comprised of a 3-foot block wall and a 3-foot view railing. But then on the other side of that view fence, they are proposing a 20-foot landscape buffer in accordance with their condition of record on the zoning. So it would basically appear like this. At the edge of the 30-foot buffer, there would be a 6-foot wall. However, 3 foot of it would be to provide views into that open space area. But then it would be additionally screened with 20 feet of landscaping on the apartment side of the wall. And this gives you a little bit of a different perspective looking aerially. Between the Cottonwood Ranch neighborhood and the apartment site lies a 30-foot landscape buffer, and then there'll be a wall and then 20 feet of landscaping before you get to the row of parking. With regard to the, actually before I go into that, I also want to call attention to the fact that, as I mentioned before, the closest principal building to the single-family area is 180 feet, whereas the minimum required as a result of the special condition was 125. And as you can tell, the buildings have been oriented in a way that their narrowest elevations are parallel to the single-family areas, so as not to create a large massing within view of the single-family houses. The city followed the notification requirements set out by the city code. We included an application and review notification last month, including notice to the Cottonwood Ranch HOA, and the notice was sent out within 300 feet of the entire vacant area, so not just this 10-acre site, but the entire nearly 17 acres that are undeveloped. As a result of that notification, we did receive comments from an owner of property to the east of this site, as well as an owner of property south of this site. And then there was some additional notification, an additional notice. There was this public hearing scheduled and the sign was posted. So the comments that we received from those two individuals expressed concerns that this development would result in increased crime. They cited that there was already a high crime rate at this intersection and this development may cause it to worsen. And it wasn't going to do anything to reduce the crime. They also had concerns that the height was too tall and the buildings would block views despite the fact that it is set back significantly greater than what it would ordinarily be in an R3 zone that didn't have conditions of record. And there was also concerns about water availability. Though this site does accommodate for 216 apartment units, they will enter into a water agreement with Arizona Water. Since it's all rental, it doesn't trigger the need for certificates of assured water supply. So with that, staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve this major site plan for the Agave House, subject to the following condition and technical modifications that are discussed within the staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gagliardi. Any questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, this is a question for Dwayne.
Take your best shot.
So tell me what the future holds for Courtson. So it's a future 7-lane facility, correct?
Yeah.
Well, 3 lanes in each direction with a center turn lane. But we are re-looking at that, whether it should be a principal arterial or a minor arterial. But we work closely with with the developer on driveways and shared access, and a lot of things in this development.
Yeah, I'm just curious why they weren't required, along the same lines as our chairman asked earlier, why weren't they required to build the full half street along Courtson?
So when, for a principal arterial with 3 lanes in both directions and a raised median usually in the middle, we don't require them to build the 3 lanes. We only build 2 lanes. Because we don't really know when that 3rd lane will be needed. And so the city will go ahead and build that 3rd lane when needed with our own funds.
Okay. And then
That's-
along those same lines, we went over regional access requirements that may come in the future. Is this a location where access would need to be controlled if it were a future 7-lane facility?
So what we do on our principal arterial is we have full access at quarter-mile points and right in, right out at eighth-mile points. So eventually, Courtson will have a raised median, and that driveway on the north there could end up being right in, right out.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that's said and on the record, just because it's very hard to give access and then take it away. We all know that.
No, easy,
Well,
you just
I
put a
know
median
that.
up.
It's a
I do
little
like
easy.
though that on the southern entrance, because I know we've had a lot of conversations and even used this site as an example during ingress and egress presentations in the past, that we were able to basically limit the rest of this site can be accessed by one ingress egress off of Treckle, and so we don't have 3 of them eventually. So that was nice.
I don't see us ever having a raised median on Treckle in there, but we will have one on Courtson, and it's easier to change access with a raised median than it is to other ways.
The driveway access that's on Courtson, does it align directly with the gas station property on the north side?
Further down.
Is it further down?
Oh, there's a small access there, I think, that goes down that back side of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was curious. They line up, right? We're not going to have another Florence Boulevard.
Or we're working real hard not to have any more Florence Boulevards.
Thanks, Dwayne. You answered all my questions.
Glad to answer these.
Now, did I catch that in the presentation, there was mentioned a right turn lane on Treckle also?
Correct.
So that's going to be built into obviously the other lot,
Yes.
the southern lot.
Okay, I like to say our policy on right turn lanes is all arterials, minor and major arterials, we require right turn lanes into all driveways.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, Member Benedict.
Do we know the height of, what do we call it, the parking screen wall? So the half screen is on the east side, and it looks like all the rest of it is called parking screen wall. Am I reading it right?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Benedict. So the way I would describe it is it's a 6-foot fence. The bottom 3 feet is block, and the top 3 feet is railing. So it's known as a partial view fence.
Right, so that's that one. The rest of it, the area is it not covered by this
So,
parking screen wall, and what does that look like? What's that?
so for clarification, you're asking what does the fencing look like in other areas around the site?
Yes.
So the current plan that we have on the table or under review proposes complete open view fencing along the rest of the site. But one of the technical corrections that staff is recommending that Planning Commission consider is that if they were to go with complete open view fencing along Treckle and Courtson and other areas, that they are to put pillars every 50 feet. Because otherwise it just kind of looks like a school site where you provide a security fence around an area where you're trying to protect children. So the other option, though, too, is they could do a partial view fence if they didn't want to do a full view fence with stone pillars every 50 feet. And that partial view fence can be very similar to what they're proposing here. They also have the option to do solid block along their south boundary and along the part of the boundary that abuts the undeveloped area between their site and the Cottonwood Ranch single-family neighborhood that's proposed, was initially proposed for a skilled nursing facility.
And how many houses on the Cottonwood site, how many houses have the see-through fence? That you can-
You know, it runs the
11.
entire
Is it
length.
11?
There's 11 homes over there.
There's 11?
Not all of them are.
Because doesn't it curve over? Is there any way, I know this may sound out of the box, that we could do something for these homeowners here, instead of making a block fence so they don't have to see this apartment complex? Can't we just do something with their fence?
What do you mean? Give them a block fence?
Yeah,
But then they don't have access to that beautiful 30-foot landscape.
but then they won't, I mean, can't we do something like that?
My thought process was, this is the 20-foot landscape buffer going to the other side, and then you got a 50-foot, section, at least of a kind of open shared space, but that gets into a whole other argument about maintenance and all kinds of things that landowners would have to decide on.
Well, so what I heard was the concern with a solid fence, solid block wall, is that encourages
Yeah,
activities.
In
that's,
between, so-
Illegal activities between, that's why they're talking about this, the way it is on.
they're already
in the
having
development.
problems as is.
And do it again on the other side so you can watch.
They're already having issues with the apartment complex across the street. And vandalism and stuff, so, I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box for these people who thought they were getting something when they bought the house, and now they're not getting what they thought.
What were they thinking they were going to get?
I thought commercial, not, apartment complexes. And so now they built this greenage, so they can look out. Now they don't have it, so I'm just thinking outside the box to make these people happy too. Instead of doing the fence, why not just,
I like the half, because at least then you think about all the parking spaces, the partial block wall is gonna block lights shining into people's backyards and things like that, so there's a level of, it does create the open field, but then somebody's headlights aren't shining in your back window with the partial wall. But,
And there's greenery on the other side of the wall that they're building, right?
there's wall,
So
there's
that-
greenery, there's a parking spot, greenery, wall, greenery, backyard fence.
it just looks like an alley.
It does,
It
but.
looks like
at-
trouble happening, that's all. That's what I see.
Jim, what was the previous zoning before,
It was zoned B2, which was general business.
which is just any commercial,
Correct.
which promotes?
Like tire shop
Which,
fits in B2.
I don't know why.
You
the
could add a
mayor
big
did
O
this.
tire there.
I mean, I don't know why he did this, but
Right.
it doesn't make sense, but.
Any other questions for staff? No? Okay. Well, we can move forward if you think of something else. At this time, then we'll invite the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward and speak to this agenda item. We've had some great conversation here. Maybe you can join in the conversation.
Sure, I'll be brave.
right.
Eric Amdahl with the applicant, Real Estate Equities. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, happy to be here tonight. As always, Jim does a very thorough job explaining everything, so I won't get into too many specifics. I can maybe just add some brief commentary on kind of our rationale for designing the fence solution on the eastern property boundary the way that we did. I think in kind of looking through some of what Jim had mentioned in terms of the SEPTED requirements for crime prevention through environmental design, there's a general aversion to creating an alley effect where I think a solid wall in that case, which would block the, most amount of the development activities that we're proposing, would sort of, with that buffer space and an unlit area, promote area for mischief. And so I think having some ability for a 3-foot fence to still block car headlights, but allow for someone standing to visually see over that fence, and for us to have on-site management able to see what's happening over there, see if there's trash in there within our property on the landscaping buffer to address that, I think is important from a maintenance standpoint. And I guess aside from that, I think we are proposing a lot of really nice trees that will mature in that space. I think there's 10 that exist in the HOA's easement area now. I think we're proposing about 12 trees that'll mature to 30 feet in height in that space, in addition to other smaller shrubbery. So I think once it matures, it'll look nice, and it will benefit not just our development, but it will look nice to the neighbors as well. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions either before or after any other public comments, and I'll stand by.
Just in case, does Commission have any questions for the applicant?
Not necessarily for the applicant,
Okay.
just a general question, thinking outside of the box with Commissioner Hubbard. I know this isn't going to be aesthetically pleasing, but is there an opportunity to gate the 50-foot buffer so that it isn't an opportunity for anybody to go down, or fence and gate that area?
I guess the subdivision could look into gifting that to the homeowners, and they could just make bigger backyards, but.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, the intent is for recreation space, but I don't think it's even used for that today. So I feel like if there's.
You could put like a disc golf course down it or something. Come on.
I don't know, I'm just trying to think of things.
I know. I guess maybe their HOA, I guess they could go to their HOA and do something.
Yeah.
You just don't want it to be an alleyway, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
We obviously don't want, because that would create an adverse effect on those properties.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a give and take. It's the alleyway or it's potential mischief, right?
Then if you gate it in, but the people are still able to get back there, then you have another problem as well.
Yeah. It's just less available.
Sure.
Just thinking outside the box.
Just thinking outside the box, just trying to figure out how to help these people.
Sure. Any other question? Any questions specifically for the applicant, I guess, because he's still on standby for us? No? Okay, then I'm going to open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? No? All right. Well,
We're just arguing over.
I'm going to close the public portion then and bring it back to the commission. What questions, comments, gripes, groans, or moans? I don't have a solution. I assume, was there any conversation, Jim, do you know, was there any conversation, or applicant, was there any conversation with the HOA and/or homeowners in leading up to this presentation this evening? He's shaking his head yes. So yeah, by all means, come up and talk with me a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So obviously, this isn't the first time that we've been in front of the commission.
Right.
And we've notified the HOA specifically, in addition to the neighbors within the radius. And so we've had a few discussions with two gentlemen who own property in this neighborhood. And a lot of the discussion that I'm hearing from you this evening is the similar push and pull effect that
Sure.
we talked through, where it's just not, frankly, if you would build it from scratch today, how you would design it. But we're in this situation,
Right.
and so we're trying to make the best of it. And really, I think the dialogue that I had with the one particular gentleman whose property abuts this one on the north edge was just more focused on how, as a developer and as a property manager, more candidly, we're proposing to secure the perimeter through vehicle access gates, that we'd have security camera systems monitoring vehicles and pedestrian access, just an understanding of lighting in the parking areas so that there's just a kind of more professional way of handling potential activity within our site boundary, because I think for him it was mostly how do we make sure that people aren't coming onto your site that aren't supposed to be there, because in his past incident, I guess there was a person who had, I think, vandalized or broken into his home, and the person came from not the immediate area, but had sort of utilized access to gain passage to his property. And so that was most of the discussion, and I think that the solution that we're proposing was something that he was amenable to.
Okay.
So that brings up a question that crosses my mind. I'm not completely clear. I apologize if I missed it. So are you thinking that this will be a gated entrances?
Yes, as proposed, vehicle access gates with controlled access.
Yeah, controlled access.
Fancy.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So with that, Commission, what would you like to do?
Chairman, I'll make a motion. The staff recommends that we approve DSA 22000078, the major site plan for the Agave House project, subject to the following conditions and technical modifications by the staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Benedict?
Well, I appreciate what the developer's trying to do here to help with our communities and their concerns. And I think the efforts that they've made, not sure you're going to get, you're going to get a better development than what they've done and what they're trying to do, and I appreciate that. I'll vote aye.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Okay, we're going to take thank you. We're going to take a quick, it's 5 minute, 3 minute break, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your patience. We'll get started. Next up, agenda item under new business number 5, public hearing and consider a request by Mike Hills of Phoenix Design for the following land use approvals for DSA-22-00041 for a conditional use permit and DSA-22-00040 for a minor site plan for Freddy's Frozen Custard. All right.
So the two requests in front of you this evening involve the development of this 1.27 acre site located just to the south and east of the former Esporta Fitness Center. It exists as a platted lot that already has improvements, as you can tell on the aerial. It was largely developed in conjunction with the shopping center, so there's already parking and landscaping on it, as well as a screen wall along Florence with a pad site basically ready for development. So the two requests in front of you is for a conditional use permit, as Freddy's Frozen Custard is known as a convenience food restaurant, which is subject to a conditional use permit in the B2 zone. It will also have a drive-through, which is a trigger for a conditional use permit. And then the other request in front of you is that minor site plan to construct the 2,800 square foot building. It also includes a small outdoor eating area. Like I mentioned, they're going to be providing a drive-through and then some additional landscaping to soften the site. When reviewing conditional uses, it's subject to the criteria you see here displayed on the screen. The staff report goes into these criteria in better detail, but I just want to talk about the two highlighted items. The first being that the site for the proposed use is adequate to accommodate the use and all yard spaces, etc. So the comment that I want to make about that is that the shopping center is subject to an approved comprehensive sign plan. As you drive down Florence, you'll notice a series of monument signage that all are very similar. And according to the comprehensive sign plan, when this pad site goes to develop, they do have space on a panel or two in particular locations. So because of that, one of the conditions that is being recommended with this conditional use permit is that no new separate detached signage for this site is allowed beyond that which is otherwise reflected on the site's applicable approved comp sign plan. The other criteria that I want to talk about is relating to streets and highways and traffic. So particularly with drive-throughs, we're always sensitive about circulation and queuing, and the proposed drive-through allows storage for 11 vehicles. The pending new parking code, which will go into effect later this year, requires a minimum queuing for at least 9 vehicles, so this does meet that. The site already has 44 existing parking spaces. They are proposing to add 11 new spaces along the north side of the building. The current code requires a minimum of 29. So this site will clearly be able to accommodate for the required parking. Now, this development provided a traffic statement that evaluated the trip generation for this business and the existing driveways and street network. It was found that no modifications were needed to the surrounding street infrastructure to accommodate this use. With regard to the review of the minor site plan, these are the criteria that gets looked at when considering minor site plans. A lot of these are very similar to the criteria of the conditional use permit. So I just want to talk about conformance with the general plan. So this area does sit within the community corridor land use designation. What that land use designation basically envisions is development that brings buildings closer to the street and activity closer to the street and minimization where possible of parking areas. And so by developing this building oriented in a way where it goes east to west will help mask the parking on the site. And the new parking that they're proposing is all proposed on the north side of the building. And there's an existing screen wall to help screen the drive-through lane that's proposed. So this does a good job with addressing sort of the goal of the community corridor designation. With regard to the public notification, we followed that which is required by code. There was no comments that were received as a result of these notification efforts. So staff is recommending that Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and its associated resolution with the special condition that I talked about regarding the detached signage. And then we are also recommending that Planning Commission approve the minor site plan, and I'm realizing that's the wrong file number in my presentation there. It's DSA 22-00040, the minor site plan. So take note in case you're reading off the screen. That we're recommending subject to the condition and technical modifications addressed in the staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question for Jim.
Okay.
Just generally speaking, so I know that Joe has a study underway for the future of Florence Boulevard as far as the streetscape. When properties come in along the Florence Boulevard alignment, are they made aware that that's in the works? Or I'm just curious how we can, let them know ahead of time that, there's potential for improvements, capital improvements outside of their development project.
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Garza, that's a good question because what I've seen so far is we've kind of done it the opposite. We've advised the consultants of projects that are about to come online, but not the other way around where we've advised developers that we have the streetscape improvement project. And but one thing I can say about this, and that would probably be a good idea to incorporate, but one good thing I can say about this site is it's already been landscaped up front. Pretty significantly, and they're literally just going to be plopping a building with some additional landscaping, but where they're adding the landscaping isn't necessarily even within that proposed improvement area. So I don't think it would be largely affected by whatever improvements occur as a result of the streetscape project, because it's probably going to all take place between the screen wall and the road.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe in the future when we see properties come through P&Z, if in the staff report, something could be mentioned to them about the streetscape project.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
And we will be doing that. We're now starting to get into more design elements of that project, so as we get further along in that, we'll be conveying it to any new projects that come in. This probably be that timeline.
Sure.
To a
Sounds
certain
good.
degree.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for staff? Great. Would the applicant and/or their representative like to speak to this agenda item? Nope. Nope? All right. Yeah, it makes it easy. Then I'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Member Peters.
I'd like to make a motion that we, as the commission, approve the conditional use permit DSA 22-00041 to allow quick serve restaurant and drive-through on property located within the B2 business zone, where said business is subject to conditional use permit approval.
I'll second.
I'll
Oh,
We have a motion and a second.
done.
I only want clarification on, is this a forward or recommendation? No. No, okay.
This is
It's
approved.
the other one. Okay. Motion and second. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Aye.
Chairman Miller?
All right, yes. All right. You can go for 2 for 2?
Mr. Chairman, I would.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion that the commission approve DSA-22-00040 for a minor site plan for Freddy's Frozen Custard involving the placement of a 25-foot tall building and other site improvement.
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion and a second. Is include your technical and the conditions and technical modifications?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Next up, we have a public hearing and consider approval of a request by Pastor Jonathan Berkey for DSA-22-00113 for a conditional use permit.
Right, next item on the agenda is a conditional use permit for the existing church and the addition of a preschool daycare within the R1 zoning district located at 1515 North Truckle Road. As you may know, the church has been in operation at the site since 1962, prior to the zoning code requiring a conditional use permit for religious institutions within residential zoning districts. However, the Trinity Lutheran Church recently purchased this site and are wishing to add daycare and preschool services to this site, requiring the conditional use permit. There are no additional buildings proposed at this time. Here is the conditional use permit review criteria. The staff report goes into detail regarding this criteria, and staff finds that all have been met and subject to the approval necessary for the public health, safety, and general welfare. With regards to notification, notices were published in the dispatch, a sign was posted, as well as notices sent out within 300 feet, and no comments were received. So with that, staff recommends Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and associated conditional use resolution, DSA 22-0013, for an existing religious institution and preschool daycare facility, subject to the following conditions. And these conditions are related to special events associated with traffic that are common for these sites. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Questions for the staff?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, how many students do you know or preschool families will be able to attend?
I do not have that information. I know that they will be using existing buildings on the
they are.
site, so they're not building any additional
Okay.
buildings. The applicant may be able to answer that.
Got it. Thank you.
I believe it's 105. Any other questions? No? Okay. At this time, would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward, speak to this agenda item?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I really appreciate you hearing our request. Also, thank you, Jacqueline. To confirm, it is 105 students and preschool families. We won't be changing our facility other than renovating a building, and so it shouldn't hopefully affect traffic. Trinity has been part of our community for over 60 years. Our preschool's been in operation for over 20 years, and we're just looking forward to more opportunities to serve our community. So any other questions?
Any questions for the applicant?
No. So just to confirm, the site is already used for a preschool service?
So currently, we are at 1428 North Pueblo, where we operate our preschool. As of November, we closed escrow. We're doing a church swap with the United Methodist Church. So we're going to move our preschool over there, and so that will be a larger preschool, larger sanctuary for us to function from.
Great. So 105 students are going to be traveling in and out off of this location, and there's no TIA that warrants doing?
I believe I can't speak to the traffic impact, but there's on north and south of the property, there are already 2 alleyways that are accessible from Treckle, and I don't know the back street. I apologize.
So it wasn't required because it's an existing building with an existing occupancy load that was already been done. So we haven't changed the occupant load, or the applicant hasn't changed the applicant load. Sorry, I go to church there. So that's why I know this information. Sorry.
Well, I'm just asking, so the church itself has a different function, as far as peak hour travel versus a school site.
Yeah, so the existing facility was already designed as classrooms. So the building that the preschool is occupying was already classroom. They just wasn't required to have a conditional use permit during the time of build.
Okay.
So then once the new churches purchase it and going to operate the facility, then they're required to get a conditional use permit to operate the updated preschool in it.
Okay. I'm just worrying about the right turn lane warrants and things like that usually are required for a arterial roadway.
Dwayne can jump in on that one.
Well, if they were building a new driveway, yes, we'd have a right turn lane.
I guess I'm not understanding it, but it sounds like Chairman's got it all figured out here.
Well, do you already have 105 students?
We do not currently, no.
Oh.
The students are at a different facility on a different
Pueblo and
street.
Corson, right?
Pueblo.
Pueblo
is back off of Treckle on the east side.
Between Manor and Laurel.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Trinity Church.
Yes.
Not Trinity Baptist, that's on Treckle.
No, it's,
But Trinity,
that's
yeah.
right that I live on.
Yep,
It's
right
that
back there, that one.
Okay, so you don't really see that much traffic anyway.
Right.
Good.
Okay,
You guys got it.
sorry.
You good?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
No? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, then we'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? And the man abruptly sits back down. Seeing nobody, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. You gonna recognize me?
Yes,
I'm
Member
just gonna keep
Benedict,
talking,
please.
okay. I'd like to move to approve the conditional use permit and associated conditional use resolution, DSA 22, got the right one? 00113.
Yes.
With the conditions as presented.
I have a motion.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters. Vice Chairman Benedict.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. Did Peters vote? Okay. Member Peters, you still there?
I am.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Where are we at now? Next up, public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to City Council for request by DSA-22-00032 for planned area development and major amendment.
Hi, next item is for the Mountain View Ranch Plenary Development Major Amendment to Parcel G. The site is 13.7 acres. It is currently zoned, it's located at the northwest corner of Pert and Rodeo and is currently zoned for commercial office. The The proposed zoning is for 9.34 acres of multifamily and 2.65 acres of commercial at the hard corner of Rodeo and Pert. A major site plan is currently under review for the apartments portion of the multifamily portion. And they're proposing 176 units at 18.84 dwelling units per acre. There is currently not a major site plan in review for the commercial site. So regarding the PAD review criteria, the staff report goes into detail regarding all of these. I will be going over the highlighted items. So with regards to the interrelationship with the plan elements, both on and off the site, as mentioned, it is 9.34 acres of multifamily and 2.65 acres of commercial. There is commercial to the south and east of the site in PAD, other PAD developments. There is single-family development to the west, which is the Santa Rosa subdivision, as part of the Mountain View Ranch PAD, and then there is multifamily zoning to the north as well. With regards to the city's general plan, it is within the neighborhood's land use category, and per that, it allows for up to 20 dwelling units per acre. And one of the goals is to encourage a variety of neighborhood design and development patterns. And I also wanted to point out that one of staff's recommendation was to keep the commercial on the corner, as we have seen a lot of multifamily proposals recently changing all of our commercials. So we wanted to keep some of that as well. With regards to the PAD review criteria, it is subject to the 2021 PAD residential design standards for multifamily, for the multifamily site, And one of those requirements is that multifamily development is limited to 28 feet when adjacent to single-family development within 50 feet of that site. Currently, the proposed setbacks at the closest site to the single-family development is at 105 feet from the property line. And on the site closest to development, 2 of the apartment complexes are being proposed as 2 stories and only 1 is 3 stories, which is the furthest back. And for the commercial portion, per their PAD guide, they are subject to B2 zoning district standards and uses. However, they are requesting that the commercial portion of the PAD is requesting 15-foot setbacks from the adjacent streets, and staff is in favor of this as is one of the preferred development forms within the 2030 general plan. And then here are some of the proposed elevations as well. With regards to notifications, staff did send out notice of application and review to property owners earlier this year when the applications were submitted. I did receive a few comments with regards to that notification effort, as well as mailing notices for this meeting. One of the inquiries is attached to the staff report, and one is an email handout provided today. And one of the, I did receive also a phone call from an adjacent land use owner as well. Many of their concerns are related to height, traffic, as well as other concerns more related to the major site plan review. And then one of them, inquiries also wanted the entire site developed as multifamily. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve the Mountain View Ranch PAD major amendment request, DSA 220032, with the following conditions of record regarding the city's right-of-way. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question. There was a resident concerned, and he asked some significant questions. Did those get addressed back to him in some format?
I did, and I also sent him the staff report link as well.
Okay, so just for clarification, is it a gated community plan for this multifamily, or we're not there yet?
We're not, yeah, that will be part of the major site plan review.
Okay. So that, the type of apartment isn't identified as well. So whether it be, yeah, what
So that
height?
is-
Height requirements?
They are, the height requirement would be 35 feet. They're limited 35 feet.
Okay. Which is a 2-story, 3-story?
It allows for 3 stories.
Okay.
And they're proposing 2 and 3-story buildings.
I think that's it for
Any
me.
other questions?
Nope,
No?
good.
Questions for staff? No? Question for staff? All right. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant and/or their representative. Please come forward. State your name for the record.
Thank you, Chairman Miller, members of the commission. My name is Andrew Miller. I'm an attorney with Birch & Crackula Law Firm, taking the place of Brian Greathouse, who's on vacation. So hopefully I've got up to speed on the project and have a lot of questions answered. I'd just like to ask Jacqueline, go ahead and load a PowerPoint that we had. I thought I might be able to dispense with it, but looking at how many people are still here, I'm assuming they're not here for Elaine Park, and so I'm assuming some of you are here for our particular application. And so I thought I might go through some of the PowerPoint slides that might answer some of the questions for some of the residents. I will let you know also that we just received last week the objection, I'll call it opposition letter, support letter. So likes the idea of transitioning. This is from Mr. Bennett Curry. And is Bennett here today? Bennett? Oh, thank you. Bennett's not here. We didn't get a chance to reach out to Bennett because we just got his letter last week. We'd be glad to do that. I think a lot of his concerns are site plan concerns, and so we'd be glad to also meet and talk to other residents with any concerns they have about the site plan as the site plan goes through review. I would note that today's application is for the rezoning, and it's a PAD rezoning to change Parcel G on the original Mountain View Ranch subdivision, Mountain View Ranch PAD from community commercial to let me slow down, to multifamily. And as staff has noted, there is a limit on the heights as well as a limit on the density. There you go. Thank you. First, we'd like to know we do appreciate the staff's recommendation of approval, and we do accept the staff's recommended condition of approval regarding dedications of right-of-way. Having heard some of the other applications tonight, we'll be dedicating and improving the right-of-way adjoining the property, and that will not be a problem with this particular project. And we'd like to request the commission's approval. I plan to stop it there with my PowerPoint, but I think with all the people here, I'd like to maybe go into a little more detail. First of all, the site is at the northwest corner of Rodeo and Pert. As Jacqueline had noted during her excellent presentation, there is on this hard corner 3 parcels zoned for commercial. I would note that there has not been a lot of demand, according to the prior property owner, for commercial at this site, and therefore we think a good transitional use would be to keep a little bit of commercial at the corner, which was staff's recommendation, as well as making the rest of the site multifamily, which we believe is a good transition. Here's a little more of a zoom into the site. It's currently vacant and underutilized, and we believe this will provide an opportunity in the town to provide, in the city I should say, much needed housing. This is the site plan. I'll just go through. It's got 176 units. 88 of those are 1-bedroom units, about 689 square feet on average. 44 2-bedroom units of 988 square feet, and 44 3-bedroom units, which is quite generous for most apartment complexes. You've probably seen a lot of those. That's a high number of 3-bedroom units, and they are approximately 1,110 square feet. We do anticipate, with a lot of the people migrating to Casa Grande for the new work opportunities, that there'll be some people with families, and this project accommodates them in a number of different ways. And we think it'll be a very attractive and welcome addition to the city. It's a highly amenitized community. There's a dog park, there's a grill area, a picnic area, a sand pit, a multi-purpose court. There's 11,243 square feet of pool and cabana, a generous-sized clubhouse with well-appointed interiors, and The site will abut this future retail and we think provide good access. We'll talk later about the traffic pattern plans, which will provide access from our driveways to those commercial properties in order to avoid additional curb cuts on Pert and on Rodeo. Sorry. Even though we're not doing the major site plan today, we have submitted that. So I think staff has shared that with people. That's, I think, a lot of the concerns and questions we had. If you notice the architecture, it's, I call it contemporary, very attractive, lots of fenestration, lots of windows, patios, porches as well. A lot of articulation between the buildings. I think that the architects have done an excellent job with the design for these buildings. And again, this will be more detail in the major site plan, but these are the plans that have been submitted, and we think they do provide visual interest and I think an exciting project. That's too far. This is the landscaping plan. Although the commercial corner is not being developed at this time, staff has asked, and we agree, to go ahead and put landscaping along the entire frontage of Pert, Rodeo, and also along Potabom. This will provide shade trees. These are typically 36-inch box trees, a lot of mesquite, Palo Verde, and other attractive desert plants, which is part of the PAD standards. We think these trees will provide immediately up front a lot of shading, as well as some screening and buffering of the site from the adjacent properties. And you can see it's also within the site a lot of trees and shrubs specified. We think the design is very thoughtful. As was pointed out, the three-story buildings have been stepped back. Originally there was a desire to have more. We looked at this site plan and said for those properties, those buildings that are closest to the residential, we would make those two-story buildings. I would note that because of the contemporary design, they're only 23 feet in height. And so between the adjacent residential, the side yards of those existing homes, we would have a distance of approximately 160 to up to 220 feet between those, I'll call it face of the buildings for the apartments and the adjoining residential. I also note on the site plan that around the perimeter of the site, there are garages. Those will be approximately 12-foot tall buildings. Will be, I think, another attractive amenity. There will be, I think, 90 garages, which is more than half of the units will be having access to a garage, as well as the covered parking. So this is I'll call it more of a premium type of complex, and I think those garages as well will provide buffering between the residences and these buildings. And here's the measurements where 80 feet from front of building to the back of the garages, another 80 feet to get to the back of curb, and then usually about another 60 to 65 feet, measuring it on the Pinal County Assessor site before you get to the sides of the existing residential houses in Mountain View Ranch. We believe it's a significant distance between them and that the site has been planned sensitively with the neighbors in mind. Oh, one more thing I would mention as well. On the site plan, all of the activities, the pool, the dog park, and the activity courts have been placed as far away from the existing residential homes as possible and adjoining the commercial. Therefore, the noise, maybe any odors if they're barbecuing, are very far away from the existing residential. And I think that's another kudos to the developers and planners who put this plan together to ensure that it does not impact the adjoining residents. Again, this is part of the Mountain View Ranch PAD. It does permit commercial uses. The letter that we did receive just last week did indicate that this particular neighbor had preferred that the entire site be multifamily. He liked the idea of having multifamily instead of commercial. Commercial means trucks unloading, a lot of noise, maybe a lot more traffic generation, perhaps even taller buildings that could be put on commercial. In this case, the tallest building that we've planned is 33 feet, and the staff has recommended a limit of 35 feet, and we'll meet those standards. We think that the combination between the remaining commercial at the corner, which is shielding, again, the residents from any of that commercial activity because of the buildings and other structures that will be between those residences and the commercial, is a well-thought-out site plan and one that will provide, I think, some compatibility. It's not, I don't want to call it live-work, but there is a good mixed-use opportunity here, or people that would work in perhaps the retail and the restaurants that maybe even some office or dentist buildings that might go on this commercial corner could live in the adjoining apartments and avoid a lot of additional traffic and trips on the public streets. Again, we think this is a very attractive product. As you can see, the buildings have fairly flat roofs. There's a lot of fenestration from the fronts. All of the mechanicals in the center and probably not going to be visible from anybody outside the property. And there are parapets that will be placed around all of that mechanical equipment as well. And we believe this is, again, an opportunity to provide some much-needed housing on a vacant and underutilized site. With that, I would conclude by saying that the villas on Rodeo thanks the staff for the recommendation of approval, and we accept the recommended condition of approval. And we'll be coming back with the site plan. It's currently under review, and if neighbors would like to talk to us more about that major site plan, again, we'd be glad to leave some cards and make sure they can have a way to get in contact with us. And so I thank you for your time, and I would open it up to any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? No? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So at this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? As you come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
Sharon Pendergrass. I live in the Santa Rosa development. I was just wondering if you could address the traffic issue along Pert, if Pert is going to be widened at all, and or if there might be a traffic light put in at the corner between Pert and Rodeo, whereas right now there's a stop sign. Traffic is backing all the way up to that Avenue Elena in the morning with rush hour traffic. And throughout the day, there's always 4 or 5 cars backed up on Pert going south at that stop sign. And I'm just wondering with 176 additional housing units, how that's going to handle the extra traffic.
Okay. Did you get, what was your address?
It's 1374 East Desert Fern Trail.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else from the public?
I'm the grumpy one. Jack Pendergrass, 1374 East Desert Fern Trail. I didn't move to Casa Grande to look at 3-story apartment buildings. You've got empty space on the east side of Pert. You have empty space on the south side of Rodeo that has never been developed by anything. Now you want to put these monstrosities where the people here at the Santa Rosa development now have to look at that stuff. Do you get my point? Yes? No? No answer. Okay.
Anybody else from the public?
David Zanizer, 491 East Dartmouth. I have the same concern about the traffic. The 3-way stop at Rodeo and Pert is very difficult to get through some days. We got the LGI homes up there going like crazy. If we do this project, I don't see any plan. What are we going to do with Rodeo and Pert? I mean, Pert loses one of its lanes just before it gets to Rodeo. How do we fix it? I don't see it in this plan. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to do it? Is the city doing it, or is this developer doing it? It's not on his drawings. Anybody know?
So this is through rezoning, so at this point in time, that's not addressed. At the major site plan portion, when they have to come back, is when specific streets, ingress, egress, widenings, those types of things will be addressed more specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Okay. I'll close the public portion. And then, Dwayne, do you want to just, I guess, further touch base on traffic? Or kind of give them an update of?
Well, as development occurs along Peart, they'll build the half street and widen Peart. Same thing with Rodeo. As far as the signal at Rodeo and Peart, we are looking at that. Some of the development will cause that to happen.
Okay.
We don't have a firm date of exactly when that will be constructed, but there will be a signal there.
And then previous agenda items, we had done some stuff with the southern, so it would be the northeast corner of Rodeo and Pert, where Rodeo doesn't go through, but will go through, right, upon that potential development as well. And so, just as a heads up, so, because you may not have gotten those notices if you're over on the Santa Rosa side, there was some additional subdivision things that were approved on the east side of Pert Road, which would then extend Rodeo further east and create a four-way intersection. And then we'll look at the rest of that with traffic impact analysis and all those other things at major site plan portion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So
if the signal is warranted, one
yeah.
will get put in there.
So a lot of the concerns that you guys had expressed publicly or from the public, keep your eyes out on the next agenda or the next meeting in regards to this subject site, because it'll have a whole lot more of the information that I think you're specifically looking for in regards to the development and setbacks and traffic flows and all those other things. Unfortunately, this evening is just in regards to the zoning of the property itself and the PAD.
Chairman Miller, I will just like to add, as I mentioned, the site plan is in review. It likely earliest would be September.
Okay.
But
just give them an idea.
yeah,
So.
but notices will be sent out again for that.
Okay. So keep your eyes out in a September-ish timeframe in regards to those. All right, anything else? Public portion's closed, so commission, it's on you.
Chairman, I just wanted, so just clarification, Jacqueline, so the existing, this is under a current PAD for Mountain, what is it called? Oops. Mountain View Ranch, and the current PAD had this parcel zoned commercial.
Correct.
So before those houses were built, this was identified as a commercial use?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify so that under the circumstances, that's the way it's sat before. The height requirement for commercial is what? Is there?
In the B2, it's 35 feet as well.
Okay, so it's the same.
Yeah, in the PAD for Mountain View Ranch, it was silent on the height requirements for the commercial site, and usually we just fall back on
B2 zoning?
Yeah, B2 zoning.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, grabs, guns, or moans? Commission?
I would also like to add for the multifamily height of 35 feet, that is consistent with the R3 multifamily zoning.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Member Benedict.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we forward a recommendation to the City Council to approve Mountain View Ranch PAD Major Amendment Request DSA 22-00032 with the conditions as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Where am I at here? There we go. All right, public hearing consider approval of a request by CVL for the following land use approvals. A preliminary plat for Elaine Farms, DSA-21-00185, and consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to the City Council for a subdivision variance, DSA-22-00094.
So the first request, again, is for the preliminary plat. The site is proposing 711 single-family lots on approximately 225 acres. The zone change to R2 was approved in December of 2021 by City Council with the following conditions of record. One of those being that multifamily development and multifamily residential structures on individual lots are not allowed. That is, and with this preliminary plat, that is approved or consistent with the plat. And as you remember, many of the R2 zoning open space was increased to 20%. This preliminary plat and preliminary landscape is proposing 36% open space. And then common areas and other items from the conditions of approval will be subject to the final plat recordation. And the density for this site is at 3.2 dwelling units per acre. So looking at the review criteria and conformance with the zoning of R2 allows for 5,000 square foot lots. And this preliminary plat has a layout ranging from 5,400 square foot to 660 square foot lots. One of the other issues was regarding the drainage patterns and an accommodation of developed flows. They will be required to do a LOMAR approved by FEMA and raising the building pads out of the 100-year floodplain prior to submitting for final plat. And with regards, I did also want to mention that the site does have spur trails that will link to the Santa Cruz Wash Trail and the spur trail further south that goes along Cascarena Avenue as well. And they are also providing a 10-foot trail easement along their northern portion. And then with regards to public roads, there will be access at Pinal, Courtson and Cascarena Avenue, as well as Treckle Road. And then Half Street improvements and other necessary improvements will be constructed accordingly with each phase. The second request is for the subdivision variance per code 1616-160. Block lengths are limited to 600 feet or no more than 12 times the minimum lot width, which is 540 feet. And according to 1612-300, variance to the subdivision code may be granted by City Council. And Planning Commission plays a role in making recommendations to Council regarding this request. As you've seen in previous subdivision variances that's become for you recently, one of the concerns with the longer blocks is traffic on the streets. Longer blocks allow for more speeding, and then the other concern is pedestrian connectivity. So with this, the layout for the subdivision has almost like a linear park throughout the area, providing pedestrian trails as well as traffic calming measures where these areas intersect with the streets. And staff report does go into detail regarding this request, but staff finds that this request has been met by the applicant. So with regards to notifications, it's been sites have been posted. Notices were mailed out and notices were published in the dispatch. I did receive one call today from a neighbor to the south just inquiring about the subdivision variance and what that entailed, and I answered that question. So with that, staff recommends Planning and Zoning Commission forward to City Council recommendation to approve the subdivision design variance for the block lengths DSA 22-0094 as depicted per the preliminary plat. And then staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for Elaine Farms, DSA 21-00185, subject to the technical correction and conditions of approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Nothing? What was the total length of those blocks?
They varied.
Sorry.
Between 920 feet to 985, but that also includes the green space within that. So that was the total block length.
Okay.
And there are only at least 7 sites where this occurs throughout the subdivision.
Going the wrong way, sorry. Going back.
Chairman, I have a quick question.
Yes.
And so recently we saw some amendments to the subdivision regulations or PED guidelines with regards to lot variety. So this one, since the PID had already went through, doesn't have that variety, right?
Correct. This was one of the hard zone changes from PAD to R2.
Okay, that came
Prior
through
to that.
before we had that. Okay. That's all.
Other questions? No? Okay. Sorry. It's just a long street, and I'm not a fan, but I don't have to buy. At this time, then, applicant and/or their representative like to come forward. So, welcome. Thank you for being patient all the way to the very end.
Absolutely, and thank you. Good evening, I'm Julie Vermillion, the applicant with CVL Consultants, located at 4550 North 12th Street in Phoenix, on behalf of the developer, LGI Homes. Thank you for hearing our cases tonight, and thank you, Jacqueline, for the detailed presentation. I'd just like to let you know I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Talk to us a little bit about your plan for what would you call phasing the construction.
Oh, absolutely. So we have a phasing map and a phasing plan that breaks this down. The site's pretty large, so we have it taken down into 4 different phases. Phase 1 being our infrastructure phase, consisting of the improvement plans prepared for parcels 1 and 2, improvements along Pinal Avenue, which will consist of a westbound right turn lane, southbound left turn lane, and then Courtson Road, the west half, on-site infrastructure for Casa Grande Avenue and Casa Grande Lakes Boulevard, which are our 2 main collectors going through the site. And then the master plan will define the infrastructure rights of ways and then the tracks within that phase. Phase 2 will consist of parcels 3 and 4. And then phase 3 will consist of 5 and 6, and phase 4 will consist of 7 and 8, which is going to be adjacent to Treckle Road at the northeast corner. So we're kind of breaking it down into 4 quadrants with the main infrastructure going in first.
Got you. So the road off of Pinal.
Yep, that'll go in first. That'll be Casa Grande Lakes Boulevard running east to west. That intersection that's currently circled.
Gotcha.
And there will be a traffic signal there. We'll also include a
And then the
traffic
other one
signal
here.
at Treckle Road and Courtson Road, and a traffic signal at Casa Grande Avenue and Courtson Road, along with right turn and left turn lanes were appropriate for each of those intersections around the perimeter.
Gotcha. Then phase 1 is up against, not Pinal, but Courtson. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you know how wide those open green spaces are?
Oh, I don't think we have them dimensioned on our plan, but I could easily guess. We do have chokers for traffic calming directly in front of them.
Yeah.
I would say they're about 3 lots wide, so like 100 to 150 feet.
Okay. Sure.
133 maybe is what that's
Yeah,
what
somewhere
I'm saying.
between there.
Something like that.
Somewhere in that range. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? No? No traffic questions?
I might have a question.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
At this time then, would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Well, come on back up. Yeah.
David Sennheiser, this one really, 491 East Dartmouth. This one really affects me because Dartmouth is just, 2 streets down from this project. 2 big concerns in this area. Flooding has been a major issue on Casa Grande Avenue. All the water from the south side of everything on Casa Grande Avenue flows north. There is a drainage ditch that goes through the proposed Trail West stuff just before the church there, and then it floods that project there in Trail West Modular Home Park that Peter Holden's planning on doing. So I hope we're working on figuring out how we're getting rid of all this water from both of Peter's project and this project, because we're going to have a lot of hard surface where currently it's all dirt. So I'm sure all our brain trusts here know about that, and they're working on that. Second issue, the way the city develops land here. You guys believe the developer should build the roads as they put their projects in. So this project's on the north side of Courtson, and the developer will put the streets in on the north side, and then the Trail West project's on the south side. How are you going to do this? We need to have Courtson 4 lanes done immediately, not when the Trail West people get around to building their project. Normally, you guys wait for them to step up and do it. Is that your plan this time? You're just going to let Trail West do the other half, and you guys are going to let this company do the north half? I think that's foolish, and I think you need to think about that. I'm going to point something out to you. On the last project that Trail West did, Viola Avenue, they did a really nice job. Trail West people widened Viola Street down to the west end. The last 100 feet, the church property was there. Everybody stopped working. So we got a half-done street because the city couldn't come up with enough money to finish 100 feet of paving. I'm not sure why. Maybe somebody can explain that to me. We come in off of Pinal there, and we immediately got to get over on the left-hand side of the road or run into dirt because we couldn't come up with 100 feet of paving. And that's the way you guys approach projects here. It's kind of annoying to us people that are driving out there every day, and I hope we're not planning on doing that here on Courtson. We want 4 lanes done when this project starts, not some future date when Trail West comes up with their part of the project. If they have to put money in escrow, then you need to talk to them about it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? No? All right, Dwayne. Talk to us about some roads.
I'm not sure what you want me to say.
That's fair. I don't know. So they're going to have to finish the 2 lanes going west, right?
Right, we do have a plan of how that's going to work. Trying to remember, Jacqueline, exactly what we decided. Weren't we going to do 2 lanes westbound and then have 1 eastbound and a turn lane, something like that?
That's the problem. That's your plan. It's a very hard road to get onto right now.
So
With the school buses on.
sir,
We can't get
sir.
on Casa Grande Avenue because of
Hang on. So Casa Grande Avenue, which she had mentioned during her presentation, is going to be a traffic light added at Casa Grande Avenue in Courtson. So what you mentioned? Applicant, yes? Yes. So there will be a stoplight. So instead of making a turn, there's a stoplight. But there's a stoplight, so if you can't make a left-hand turn, the green light will let you make your left-hand turn from Casa Grande Avenue to Courtson. And so you're alleviating that issue currently with the buses and things. Sir?
This is the problem.
Okay.
When you're going east on Courtson, okay, you got one lane, you're coming up to Casa Grande Avenue. You're driving a 35, 40-foot motorhome going to Trail West. You can't make that turn if somebody is in the lane going north. You can't turn a motorhome in there. You sure now ain't turning a 40-foot truck. So if you don't put 4 lanes in there right from the get-go, people can't make that turn. This guy, I don't know where he drives his car, but you can't make that turn in a big vehicle. And it's been that way for 17 years because I've lived there and I drove 2 motorhomes there and I had to wait many times to be able to make a right-hand turn off of Courtson onto Casa Grande Avenue because we don't have the right lanes there. Okay? You can say what you want, but it's the reality.
Thank you. We appreciate your input. So with that, now then, public portions closed. Commission.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Not related to traffic, but related to the Santa Cruz River, right? That's the Lomar.
Santa Cruz
Wash River. So tell me about the improvements that the development will be required to do in that area, and then who would be maintaining that area, and how is it identified? I'm assuming it's a track.
Yes, so they will have to do a LOMAR that will be approved by FEMA as well as reviewed by city departments to raise the site out of the 100-year floodplain. And then that area will be part of a track for the
So
subdivision.
will it be landscaped in some form?
Yes. Yeah, there'll be landscaping, and then the trail easement will be along the north for the Santa Cruz Wash, connecting the city trail. Originally, they proposed to have the trail further south, closer to the subdivision, but when working with Park Community Services, we wanted them to continue it along the wash, so that's why we just asked for the trail easement instead. But does that help answer?
So it's their open space, which
Yeah.
then they'll be required to landscape.
And maintain.
And maintain from the HOA standpoint.
Yeah, because you find a lot of these
Yeah.
areas throughout the city. They're very old, but
Yeah.
they are way overgrown and unmaintained, and it can create
Yeah.
hazards in this scenario.
And they do have trail connections from the subdivision up to the trail, Santa Cruz Trail.
So they can get from their subdivision internal trails to
Mhm.
the trails, the city trails, and some great connectivity there.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions? No? Cool. Oh.
Mr. Chairman,
There you go. Member Peters.
I'd like to make a motion that the commission forward to the city council a recommendation to approve the subdivision design variance for block lanes DSA-22-00094 as depicted per the preliminary plat, with the technical corrections and conditions of approval as stated by staff.
We'll take it. Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Member Benedict.
I'd like to move to approve the preliminary plat for Elaine Farms DSA 2100, is that the right number? 185, subject to the technical corrections and conditions of approval.
No, yeah, yes. Motion, yes.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Public comment. Anybody from the public like to make a comment? No? Got some smiles, but I didn't get any comments, huh? All right, I'm going to close the public portion. Reports by the planning director. Paul, you still awake over there?
I am, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Even though it's 11:30 where I am.
Ooh.
Are we supposed to feel sorry for you?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot cooler than where we are, so.
It is. It's a lot cooler. So for the minor site plans administratively approved, we had no administrative approvals, no Board of Adjustment decisions. See the City Council decisions listed in your agenda, but I might also note that City Council on Monday night had second reading of approving the revisions to the parking code, and also they approved the revisions to the access management standards. So those were both approved by City Council as well. And we provided the Commission with our monthly Development Center reports. That's all I have to report.
Fantastic. Well done as well. All right. I lost my last page of my agenda somewhere. There it is. I believe that's all she wrote. What? Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.